The Luton Town story is pure football manager stuff, from non-league to the Premier League in the space of less than 10 years. It'd be ridiculous for me not to make a video all about them. In today's video, I'm going to do what is hopefully going to be a realistic rebuild of the club. They're going to get themselves 170 odd million pounds. They're going to the Premier League. They're going to need to replace a lot of players whose loans end and players whose contracts are expiring. They're going to need to bring in a lot of people, but on a bit of a budget, because they're going to have to spend all of that money on the stadium to try and bring it up to Premier League standard. It's a real story, and one that is quite an underdog one. I'm going to try and realistically do that in Football Manager today, and I hope you're going to enjoy it, because did you know that next season, this is going to be the entrance to a Premier League football stadium? Okay, all right, not that, but this actually is mental. Hello, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a realistic rebuild today. Realistic as much as I possibly can. We've taken over at Luton after they've been promoted to the Premier League, of course. Massive, huge scenes over the weekend as they got themselves back to the promised land. The first time back in the top flight since 1992. And the fact that they were playing non-league football 9 years ago or so is just an outrageous story. And that's why we had to make a video on it. I've managed to get an up-to-date database that sees them promoted through the playoffs. I've had to go and play that playoff and make sure they got promoted. They won 3-0, which is a bit better than in real life. Sorry, Coventry fans. But Luton are on their way to the Premier League from this point here. And what I'm going to go and do is build them to get themselves ready for the new season. There's a lot of players, just as a first thing to mention here, a lot of players, if I go to their contract, a lot of people who are out of contract at the end of this season, according to the game here. Now, I'm going to do my best with this. I'm going to try and keep the players that I think have been playing regularly and try and let the ones go that might actually leave realistically in real life. Luton fans, if you're watching this, please do shout at me in the comments down below if some of these do leave that you think will stay on. And obviously, we're doing this ahead of what actually happens in real life. So I'm going to do my best with it. We've also got a lot of players who are leaving at the end of their loans. Players like Marvellous Nakamba, who I've had the look. They want a lot of money to sign him permanently. Cody Drama back to Leeds. They're going back down to the Championship. I wonder what will happen to him. And Horvath, the keeper as well. So there's lots to think about. There's probably going to be a lot of players coming in, because with all of these guys going out and hopefully a little bit of money to spend, we're going to try and build Luton into a Premier League team and then simulate the season to see if they survive. Because I think, without being too harsh with Luton here, that's the aim, right? Get to the Premier League now, but survive for next season. That would be an almighty achievement. That's the plan anyway. If this sounds good to you, please do subscribe to the channel. If this type of video is your type of thing, maybe we go and do it with the other teams that got promoted, or maybe the teams that got relegated down to the Championship, see if we can get them back to the Prem. I want to do a lot of these realistic rebuilds over the course of the summer, because I really like looking at transfers. That's my favourite thing about football. So please do subscribe. We're also not that far away from 50k subscribers. I'm going to start aiming for it. We're on 41.5 or so. So you guys can help with that. Please subscribe, and let's get ourselves into this Luton rebuild by doing some transfers. Come on. All right, so I guess the place to start is right here with the squad on the 1st of July, the date where those contracts have now expired. There are only 13 players left in our squad. So a lot of those players that had their contracts expiring have now left the club. Of course, some of them might not be quite realistic. I'm sure some people will sign new contracts extensions, depending on who's available to bring in. But it's really difficult to guess who those players are going to be. So Luton fans, please do let me know in the comments down below if any of these guys here that have now been released, if you think they're going to sign a new contract with the club. I was looking through and I think there might be one or two of them. Players like Henry Lansbury has got Premier League experience. So maybe he'd be one that would stay around. I mean, there might be one or two. Well, there's probably a few of these that would actually stay or will stay in real life, won't they? Of course, also those loan players that were at the club have now moved on too, giving us quite a free and open blank canvas to work with to try and turn this team into a team that survives in the Premier League. Because right now, our season preview says we are 1,000 to 1 and we are going to finish bottom of the league. We're going to hopefully change that by bringing some players in. We do have a little bit of money as well, £41 million to spend, bit of wage budget to spend as well. However, I am going to try and be Harry Redknapp with this and wheel and deal and try and bring in some bargains, because I'm not sure how much money Luton want to spend with that. You know, you get that big payday when you do get promoted, but they've got the stadium to try and improve. I think it's going to cost them about £10 million to bring it up to Premier League standard. Are they going to be able to go and spend loads? They're going to have to spend some to bring in enough players, but I don't think it's going to be a Nottingham Forest job where they go and bring in 30 odd players like Forest did in their first season. But I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to go and do those transfers now. I'm going to see you on day one of the season. We'll check that season preview again and see if we've managed to improve it from, well, rock bottom and 1,000 to 1. And then we're going to simulate the season and see, can we survive? I'll see you when I've done some transfers. Okay, transfers done. I've brought in, let me just count them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 new players. You just got to watch me count live there. 14 new players in for a grand total of £32.5 million. We've not spent massively, but we have definitely beefed out this club now. And let's go through these players before I show you the tactic, the way that I'm going to set up the team before we simulate until the end of the season. And I think we've done a good job here. I think this team, it should survive. It should survive. Let's go through those players. There are, first of all, 3 players brought in on free transfers. Joe Bryan, Premier League experience. He played in the Premier League for Fulham. He's joined as a left back or a left wing back option on a free transfer. Ryan Nyambe, another fullback option this side on the right hand side. In fact, I'll click on his page properly there so that you can see he's a Namibian. He was playing for, wow, he's at Wigan but didn't really play, but he's another free option. I'm trying to beef out the squad with cheap players that there might be some value in. I'm looking at his attributes here. I'm thinking he looks like a very decent player. He's injured at the moment. Yaku Mete fits the bill and what I look for in a striker. Again, on a free transfer. He was at Reading, where, I mean, he scored some goals in the Championship, I suppose. Didn't get any in that season. We got 12 there, got 13 there. Is he worth a punt? I don't think he's going to be a starter, but I think he's worth a punt. Again, attributes in the right places. The work rate's really good. The heading is really good. Yaku Mete, 3 free transfers. Those were really just to try and give some numbers to this team, which we were going to need. From here, a little bit more targeted, a little bit more thinking behind the signings. We have signed Paddy McNair from Middlesbrough. Had a great season with Middlesbrough. They had a great season is what I'm trying to say. They got themselves into the playoffs. Maybe a bit unlucky not to go up. Michael Carrick doing a really good job there. Paddy McNair, I think, could be a player that could be good in the Premier League this season. Can play at centre-back, could play in midfield as well. I mean, did he play in the Premier League at all? I feel like he must have done, right? He played a few games for Sunderland when he moved from Manchester United, and then, of course, had a few games for United as well. But being down in the Championship with Middlesbrough for a while now, played loads of games for them, actually, hasn't he? He has come in for around £4 million. Cheap, isn't it? I mean, if Premier League teams are signing players for £4 million, quite Brighton, maybe not with players like Paddy McNair, but you know what I mean, like signing those players for cheap and then maybe you get some value out of them in the future could be useful. This is the kind of thinking behind this signing here, actually. Jerome Opoku has signed for £1 million, and I think he could be a player that could play a lot of games. He's playing for Arouca. He signed there on a free transfer in Portugal. He was formerly at Fulham, been out on loan at Plymouth. He's 6'6", which is maybe why I've wanted to sign him. He's half English as well, so you don't need to worry about that work permit or anything like that. Born in London, but is Ghanaian. I think he looks like a really good defender. 6'6" and pretty good. I mean, he's going to win headers is the main thing. He's got that 18 jumping reach. He's in for £1 million. Could be a bargain. Next up, Ilias Chair. A lot of quality with Ilias Chair. He's been at QPR for a long time now. Hasn't ever maybe kicked on like a lot of maybe QPR fans would have expected him to do. And he was, he went to the World Cup with Morocco, didn't play a lot of games during the World Cup. I'm going to give him a chance. He's going to come in at Luton in the Premier League and we're going to give him a chance for £5 million. I wonder if we can get some value out of him. He's not bad in FM looking at his attributes here. Lovely up arrows as well. Only 25 years old as well, though he's injured. What has he done now? He's pulled his thigh. I'm sure he's going to be fine. But Ilias Chair for £5 million. That takes us to about £10 million with these players here. And we've got 3 good squad options who could all start, I think. Next up, I think this one's going to be an important one, and he's a bit of a go-to signing. Steffi Mavididi is, again, half English, which is useful in this, in that he was born in Derby. Look, he's playing in France for Montpellier. He's a striker that I think can score goals. He can definitely score goals in Football Manager, and he scored some goals in France as well for Montpellier. He moved for £5.5 million, former Arsenal youngster. I wonder if we can get some value out of him. I think this one for, what is it, £4.5 million, rising to £5 million, could be an interesting signing too. I'm going to go through all of these like this because I think this is the main crux of the video, isn't it? How do you build this squad? Next up, Ali Mohammed. Love Ali Mohammed in Football Manager. Look at the attributes on him. Great teamwork and work rate. In this midfield, he's going to be a bit of industry in that midfield. Signing for £2.5 million from Maccabi Haifa, where he's not moved for much. This is going to be his first job in England. He's been in Africa, then into Israel, and now over to the Premier League. I think he looks like a really good midfielder. I mean, our coaches seem to rate him really highly as well. On cheap wages, in fact, that's something to mention too. I'll show you the wages that I managed to get people on, because that's a thing in Football Manager, I think, is that you can sometimes just chuck loads of wages at players and you can sign a lot of people. But I've tried to keep it realistic with the weekly wages that I've offered out. Next up, a loan, Ethan Ampadu from Chelsea. I don't think he's going to be sticking around Chelsea. He's been in Italy at Venezia and Spezia. I think he would happily move to Luton on a loan as well. He's played games at Leipzig, played loads of games at Sheffield United in the Premier League, didn't he? So maybe now that we're sort of being a bit like Sheffield United in this Premier League, he could be useful. We're going to pay 1.5 million to have him. Similar story with Ryan Giles, another youngster in from Wolves this time. He's going to come in and be an option probably on the left-hand side somewhere. He's, again, £1.4 million for him. Next up, right wing back, because we are going to use wing backs. I feel like this one's quite realistic in a weird way. You know, he's at Huddersfield. He went to Blackburn. I don't know. It just feels right for Luton to sign somebody like Sorba Thomas. He's come in for £3.5 million. And then a couple more. James Trafford, the goalkeeper, is probably going to be our first choice goalkeeper from Manchester City. He was on loan at Bolton previously. He had that signed glove that, you've seen the clip, haven't you? James Trafford's going to be our starting goalkeeper this season. And then finally, the last couple of signings, John Swift is the first one. He's had a really good career at West Brom, at Reading, went to West Brom. We're going to sign him for £5.5 million and a player went the other way. He comes in, he's a really good Metzala, or an attacking midfielder. He's a natural central midfield attack, by the way, actually, which I think is quite useful. I wanted a Metzala here because we use Metzalas in the tactic, which I will show you as I set up the team. But finally, right at the end, 300k, Reece Williams, don't know why he's not got a photo. In from Liverpool, though. Premier League experience, not a lot of it, but has someone in that weird season where Liverpool had no centre-backs. Also played for Swansea in the Championship. I think it's worth a punt on Reece Williams, and he's going to come into. He's also got that height, hasn't he? 6'5". Those are the signings. This then is what the side is going to look like in theory. I'm not sure who's going to start, and I am going to simulate the season with this tactic set up, and hopefully, as I say, we survive. Goalkeeper James Trafford, and then a back three in front. Lockyer, who is the captain, he's going to stick around. We've got McNair Opoku, that youngster from Portugal. Well, was playing in Portugal, £1 million. Ampadu is in as the anchor, maybe. Thomas on the right, Giles on the left, Ilias Chair, Mohamed in midfield, Mavadidi, and then Adebayo. Adebayo, by the way, I think he's got a lot of credentials that means he scores goals in Football Manager. He was a real handful, wasn't he, in that playoff final? Can he do it in the Premier League? I'm not sure. But in Football Manager, I think we might get some really good performances from him because he has that meta. He's really tall, he's quick, and he's got good finishing. Usually that's enough to score goals. I'm hoping he does score his goals to keep us up. On the bench, we have these options here. We've got Williams, Osho, Brian, Nyambe, Mpanzu, Clark, Swift, Mate, and then Carlton Morris with Jack Walton as the backup goalkeeper. I think this squad is capable of staying up. I might try and do some transfers in January if we need to, maybe to strengthen if we have some money, because we did have money. We spent, what, £30 million? We've got 15 left. We did get quite a decent transfer budget, but I didn't want to spend all of it because I want to hold some money back maybe for the stadium. What does this mean for our season preview then? We were rock bottom. We're still rock bottom, but we've gone from 1,000 to 1 to 800 to 1. We're up against it. Can we stay up? That's what we're going to find out now by going to the end of the season after simulating how we do. Let's go and find out if Luton survive in the Premier League. Okay, it is the end of the season and we've survived. We've managed to see this Luton team survive. It was almost a lot better than this, but we finished in 14th. We're a Premier League team for next season, and I think that is mission accomplished. 38 games, 15 of them have been wins, 7 draws and 16 losses. Most of them 4 losses in a row at the end. We kind of fell off a cliff right at the end of the season, maybe because of the small squad. Not quite sure, but we almost finished in the top half. If you think those 4 losses right at the end, if we picked up 3 more wins out of those, that's maybe a little bit out of the ordinary, but we would have been up in like 8th, which would have been ridiculous. But we are instead down in 14th, but miles clear of this relegation battle. It was Sheffield United, Burnley and Forest that have gone down. So 2 of the promoted teams back down, and then Forest, their luck ran out. Only 18 points from them. 3 teams had a dreadful season, right? Really, really bad. We were never really in any doubt of going back down. It's a really good season from us, and I'll show you the results here and show you. In fact, before we do that, let me go to the homepage here to show you how we did in the other competitions too. 14th in the league, our top goal scorer, Yaku Mete, with 21 goals. He wasn't even a starter. I'll go through all of the player performances by looking at the match tactics screen to show you who played the most games in this simulation. But 21 goals from Yaku Mete, signed on a free. Go and sign him in your saves because there's value in that, right? Look at that for a return in the Premier League. 7.3 average rating as well. Ridiculous. 14th in the league. We lost in the FA Cup third round to Chelsea. Maybe you'd expect that. And then the third round in the Carabao Cup to Manchester United too. The board, though, are delighted with us. And in fact, they've given us they've given us £71 million to go and spend in the next season for season 2 in the Prem. £88 million in the bank and a wage budget of 800,000, which gives us 169,000 to go and spend if we wanted to continue with this save, which we're not going to in today's video, but maybe I will put the save file onto the Patreon as well if you did want to continue this yourself. I'll put the start save file so that if you wanted to do this yourself, and then the end save file so that you could do either of those if you want to. If you are a Claytreon member, thank you to all you guys who do support over on Patreon too. Very much appreciated. Let's have a look at these results then, just to go through. You can see start of the season was great. We beat Villa and Newcastle. Sorry, not Newcastle. We beat Villa and Spurs before losing to Manchester United and Chelsea. Newport in the Carabao Cup, we lost to West Ham. We beat Brentford and Palace. You can see that we're beating the teams around us, especially those home games. Home form was key. A 3-1 win against Palace here. I've clicked on it, so let's have a look at it. You can see the team that is playing in this one. And Panzu in midfield, Mete and Mavadidi up front, Lockyer starting. Ampadu, we signed him for DM, but he's actually been playing at centre-back quite a lot as well. You see the bench players there. Solid win. XG of 3.4, which is just really, really good chance creation from us. Just moving through, I'm just going to scroll through. There's big wins against Fulham. We beat them 5-1, which was pretty cool. Goals from Adebayo and Mavadidi up front. Apoku scoring 2 as well. That youngster, or not youngster, he's 25, but that 6'6", £1 million signing from the Portuguese league got 13 goals. From centre-back because he's 6'6" and has 18 jumping reach. He is a monster in the air, and if you get a monster in the air and your set pieces are good in FM, you're going to score headers, aren't you, on this left-sided defender here. He got 13 for the season. Just to scroll through the rest of these results, because just so that you can see them, really good results, mixed in with some poor ones. Losing to Liverpool 4-1, losing to Arsenal 3-0, beating Burnley 5-1. They were rubbish this year. We sent them back down. And then losing with 4 losses in a row. Chelsea, Man U. I feel like we play Chelsea and Man U together all the time through this season and lose to both of them all the time. And then losing to Brentford and West Ham. Could have been a lot better, but it was pretty good. I mean, just look at that here. Just to sum things up, this game here, we lost to Manchester United 4-3 at home. But Apoku scored all 3 of our goals from centre-back. Go and sign yourself a massive centre-back with really good jumping reach, because they will score headers and they will do really well for you. Those then were the results. Going to show you now the team and go through it. Some of the heroes of this side to show you who played the most games and what we were playing. We're using this 5-2-3 as I showed you before. James Trafford was the keeper. He played every single game. Lockyer, 37 games from him at right centre-back. Ampadu at central centre-back, played a lot more games than I was expecting him to. You see some of the bench performances here. Look, there was Paddy McNair, for example, came in at centre-back a few times. Actually, loads of times played at right wing-back, which is an interesting one. I wasn't expecting it, but he did. May have seen a couple of extra new players in there, by the way. I did make some signings in January, which I'll show you in a second. McNair, though, played some games at centre-back. Apoku, we looked at loads. Right wing-back, Cody Drama is back at the club. They wanted a lot of money for him in the summer to sign him from Leeds permanently. In January, they wanted a lot less. He was 5 million up front, that rises to 8 million if he plays all of those games. But came in and was a really key player for us. I thought it made sense to bring him back to the club. So he came back in as a right wing back. The other big signing, and I'm very happy with this one, £3 million up front. We beat Manchester United to the signing of a French midfielder called Baptiste Mendy, in from Angers, from France, and 18 appearances and just really solid. £5 million what we spent now. It could go to 7.5, but it was 3 million up front, and United wanted him as well. So I think we've done all right to sign him. He comes in and has replaced whoever was playing at DM at Ampadu, or I think there was another player playing in there more often, wasn't there? And then at left wing back, Giles, Mohamed and Swift were the 2 midfielders in there. I sold the other guy Ilias Chair. It didn't work. We took a punt on him. He's moved to Bordeaux in France. We got our money back. We signed him for £5 million. We've sold him for 4.8, which could go to 6. So we're going to get our money back for him. But it didn't really work. He didn't make a load of appearances for us. Only one start look. So I thought we'll get our money back for him and we'll cut our losses a little bit. And that's what we've done. Back to the team then. Just to go through the rest of these players. Adebayo up front. I talked about him at the start of this video. I said he will score goals because of his height, because of his pace and his finishing. He's got himself 19 Premier League goals in his first Premier League season. Actually, he was in the Premier League with... no, he wasn't. He was there with Fulham, but I don't think he ever played. 19 goals in his first Premier League season. Outrageous return. It was 19 all comps. He didn't play in any of the competitions or didn't score in any of the competitions. Alongside him, Yaku Mete, such a strange player. 19 starts, but 21 goals. Like, outrageous return. Lots of these off the bench. 21 goals. Is our top goal scorer. Mavadidi was starting more games. Didn't score as many. But was a great creator, actually. Not that he got 6 assists, but was facilitating a lot of the build-up play that we were doing. And he got himself 9 goals. And that's the team. I mean, look through. There were lots of appearances from players like Ampadu, who I think actually was probably more likely a starter in there. Lots of appearances from Mapanzu in midfield. From Mata, from Nyambe, from Clark. This team has done brilliantly. We've finished 14th. We could go again and continue this if you want to on the Clayts. But this Luton team is able, without spending too much, without breaking the bank, is able to stay in the Premier League. So let's hope they do it next year. It would be quite a nice fairy tale story, wouldn't it? Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more of these videos, please do let me know and we can go and do maybe those other promoted Premier League teams, or they are now Premier League teams. Maybe the relegated teams too we could go and look at, or other teams too. I want to go through and do those realistic transfer type videos where we look at Liverpool signings and United's and Chelsea's and Arsenal's. There's going to be some really interesting summer windows coming up, isn't there? So those will come, well, they'll be coming up. Let me know what you want to see in the comments down below. But most importantly, well, maybe not most importantly, but please do subscribe to the channel. We're aiming for 50k by the end of FM23. That's a stretch goal, but I think we can do it. But most importantly, I should say, have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.